In 2008, a small technology startup was serving small businesses offering a data management and data publication platform. One of the small businesses that this technology startup began to serve was a small business known as Obama for America. Serving a presidential campaign gave the founder of this tech startup an idea. Why not offer government entities an easy, simple way to publish data and manage it, not just for themselves, but for all their constituents? That idea is now serving over 1,000 government agencies, state, local, and federal, and is our host today. We are so grateful for the company without whom this event would not be happening. I'm pleased to welcome, and I want you to help me welcome, Kevin Merritt, the founder and CEO of Socrata.
Thanks, Hudson. Good morning, everyone. I just got to say, it's awesome that Andrew Turner has his son here today. I assume that's your son, or your nephew. Well, you're going to learn more about civics, history, democracy, technology, and entrepreneurship than you're going to learn in school today, so good for you for coming here. Happy to have you here. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Data Transparency 2016 and the White House Open Data Innovation Summit. As Hudson mentioned, I'm Kevin Merritt. I'm the founder and CEO of Socrata, and it's my pleasure to join Hudson in welcoming you all here to this event today. I think this is going to be a spectacular day of celebration, of fascinating conversations, of new friendships. Really today we're celebrating a movement, the open data movement. We're going to celebrate the progress that this open data movement has made, not over just the last 8 years, but literally over the last number of decades, in helping governments unlock their data in order to improve transparency and operational efficiency, and ultimately to improve society. Socrata, as Hudson mentioned, has been exclusively focused on open data since late 2008. And by now, this whole open data movement has gone mainstream. Now more than 1,000 governments, large and small, are participating in this movement. It's fantastic to see. And this isn't just something for large federal agencies and large cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York City, which now have vibrant and robust open data programs, but small municipalities are participating as well because they see the value in open data. So as an example, some examples of small municipalities that are participating in open data. Williamsburg, Virginia has a population of 15,000. Danville, Virginia, population 42,000. Menlo Park, California serves 33,000 residents, and Queen Anne's County in Maryland serves a population of about 48,000. These local governments, Williamsburg, Danville, Menlo Park, Queen Anne's County, are all in on open data. They understand the value that it delivers, and it's real and it's remarkable. So having led Socrata for these past 8 years, watching this open data movement take root and blossom, I wanted to kick off today's events by celebrating some of the many milestones that we've experienced together as a movement. So while this term open data might be relatively new, I think it's about a decade old, the idea of governments collecting and sharing their data is not new. In fact, all of the open data programs today can count as the predecessors, the foundations atop which these modern open data programs rest. So a few days each year, I have the privilege of being a public servant. I serve Secretary Penny Pritzker and the United States Department of Commerce on the Commerce Data Advisory Council. One of the bureaus or agencies housed within the Department of Commerce is the granddaddy of open data, the U.S. Census Bureau. If you're not familiar, the U.S. Census Bureau started tabulating statistics on the population of the United States in 1790 and made a commitment to make that data publicly available. Obviously, the internet didn't exist then, so they did it in paper form. But it's reasonable and accurate to say that the Census Bureau has been doing open data for 225 years. The fourth president of the United States, James Madison, is largely considered to be the father of the U.S. Constitution, and many would regard James Madison actually as the father of open government. James Madison wrote in 1822, "A people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives." So you could say that the ideals of democratized access to information have been important to our democracy since the foundation of this country. Passed in 1967, next year we're going to celebrate the 50-year anniversary of the Freedom of Information Act, which granted access to American citizens, access to any record from a federal agency that doesn't subject the government to security violations. In the 1970s, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, began putting online real-time daily weather reports freely available, publicly accessible on the National Weather Service's website. You might remember that after a lost Korean Airlines passenger jet in 1983 was shot down by the Soviet military, the United States government decided to make global positioning system data available for civilian use. So both of these data streams, weather data from NOAA and the GPS data from the Federal Aviation Administration, are the foundations on top of which this open data movement rests. We can thank this GPS data and weather data not only for saving lives, because both do that, but also for improving quality of life. Just having access to weather forecasts and turn-by-turn navigation on our phones is a convenience that we all now can thank the federal government for their foresight in the 70s and 80s. The economic impact of these two data streams alone is more than tens of billions of dollars. It informed McKinsey's research a few years ago when they identified that the economic value locked up in government data is somewhere between $3 and $5 trillion. It's quite a staggering economic impact that government data has. Well, if James Madison is the father of open government, the father of open data is Carl Malamud. If you're not familiar with Carl, he has been toiling away for decades unlocking government data, and in 1994, Carl put the Security and Exchange Commission's EDGAR database online, freely accessible for all of us to be able to get at financial data from the public stock market. In 2006, Washington, D.C. became the first local government in the nation to participate in open data by launching the DC Citywide Data Warehouse. You could say that the vibrant and robust open data programs of San Francisco, New York, and Chicago today owe a debt of gratitude to the work that DC did a decade ago. In 2008, then candidate Barack Obama began publishing campaign contribution data on their website, demonstrating that the supporters of Obama were largely middle-class American families writing small checks, not a handful of wealthy individuals writing large checks. That's when Socrata entered this open data movement, helping the Obama campaign team publish their campaign contribution data. A number of seminal events took place in early 2009 to kick off this modern open data movement. On the second day in office, in January 21st, 2009, President Obama issued the first memorandum on transparency and open government, declaring that the U.S. government should be transparent, participatory, and collaborative. Grassroots support for open data coalesced quickly, and in February of 2009, Ellen Miller, Clay Johnson, the late but not forgotten Jake Brewer, and the passionate team at the Sunlight Foundation launched the first transparency camp here in D.C. A month later, in March of that year, Peter Corbett, Maxine Teller, Jeffrey Levy, and Mark Drapeau held the first ever Government 2.0 camp, also here in D.C. Both of these events were small and they were intimate, but what they lacked in size, they made up for in enthusiasm and passion. I was at those events. It was wonderful to see public servants and community organizers actively participate in these discussions around open data. To name just a few of them who were there, Beth Novak, Andrew Turner was there. That's where I met Andrew the first time. Andrew Wilson, Macon Phillips, Bev Godwin, a number of great individuals at those events who are still active in the open data community. Around the same time, in early 2009, President Obama appointed the nation's first CIO and CTO, Vivek Kundra and Anish Chopra. If you're not aware, Vivek was very well aware of the DC Citywide Data Warehouse because that's where he came from Octo Labs. Vivek brought that idea of open data to the federal government, and in May of 2009, Vivek and the government launched data.gov, a one-stop shop for all of the government's open data. Later that year, in December of 2009, the Obama administration issued the Open Government Directive, which mandated publishing government information online and institutionalizing a culture of open government. In 2010, open government and open data went local when Jen Paulka and Kevin Curry organized the first city camp in Chicago, drawing in a number of civic tech and open data enthusiasts like Andrew Greenhill, Noel Hidalgo, and Dmitry Kayechev, who was also involved in the DC Citywide Data Warehouse. Again, the open data programs today in San Francisco, Chicago, Los Angeles are all here today because of the work of these early pioneers in the open data movement. Big thinker Tim O'Reilly is often credited with coining the term Web 2.0 to describe the social web. Well, early in 2010, he coined two other terms that are important today: Government 2.0, which describes a participatory open government, and government as a platform, which helped us evolve this industry from catalogs of files available for download to data services powered by application programming interfaces. The ideas that emerged in Transparency Camp, Government 2.0 Camp, and City Camp percolated, and in 2011, Jen Paulka, with the support from Tim O'Reilly and Clay Johnson and a number of others, founded Code for America to bring the ideals of open government and open data to cities. In early 2012, Hudson Hollister founded the Data Transparency Coalition and served as an advocacy group pushing for open data and open data standards. We're all here today because of this man to my left, your right. Later in 2012, the Obama administration issued the Digital Government Strategy. This was a paper that called on agencies to make high-quality open data and digital services accessible to anyone, everywhere, and anytime. In 2013, President Obama issued the Open Data Policy. This was an executive order making machine-readable open data the default for government information online. And in May of 2014, the Digital Accountability and Transparency Act, the DATA Act, was signed into law. This required federal agencies to publish their financial spending data so that it could be easily understood by Americans in how the government was spending taxpayer dollars. Last year, the ideals of open data were started to be applied to some really thorny challenges in society. The White House launched the Police Data Initiative to ask police departments to voluntarily make available as open data not only crime incident data, but also their operational data like officer-involved shootings, use of force, and complaints against the police department. Former Mayor Mike Bloomberg of New York City is often cited as one of the most data-driven mayors. Last year, Bloomberg Philanthropies funded a program to accelerate the adoption of open data and performance management in America's mid-sized cities as a means to boost their operational efficiency and improve quality of life for the residents they serve. Earlier this year, you might recall that the Obama administration put the $4 trillion U.S. budget online interactively in a format that President Obama called the most accessible U.S. budget ever published. And on the very same day, the very small town of Barnstable, Massachusetts, used the same Socrata-powered software to put their $181 million budget online. Just earlier this month, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau fined Wells Fargo $185 million for deceptive loan practices. This was made possible because of the work that CFPB had been doing over the last couple years, collecting and making available as open data consumer complaints in the financial realm. And while perhaps maybe not as noteworthy as the highlights that I've just enumerated for you over the last few minutes, virtually every day now, in fact, one of the most exciting comments I heard last night is that it's no longer newsworthy when a government launches an open data portal. Virtually every single day now, a town, a city, a county, a state agency, or a federal agency brings a new data set, a new data service, or a new AP online as open data. But before I wrap up, I want to offer a very quick glimpse of where open data is already headed. It's just early in this movement. We've really only just scratched the surface. By my own estimation, less than 1% of government data is currently online. And today, really, government agencies are not much more than a conduit of data to the public. But I'm super excited about 3 emerging classes of data that are starting to be incorporated into this idea of open data. And the real exciting news is that these classes of data benefit the public servant, not just the public at large. So the first class is unlocking interagency data. So this is basically getting data out of the line of business systems departmentally to break down data silos. The second is intra-agency data, creating data exchanges so that agencies can securely share data with each other so that they can solve some of the most important problems that society faces. And the third new emergent class of data is third-party non-governmental data coming from industry and academia, which can help government operate more efficiently. So we at Socrata call this cloud-based data democratization for government, and we're excited to be innovating in this space because we think it's going to amplify the return on investment in open data significantly, helping governments shift from kind of where they are today, mostly analog, to where they will be soon, fully digital. So today is a day to celebrate. It's an exciting day. It's a day that we get to reflect on the progress and the success that we have all had as participants in this broader open data movement. So I hope that you will join me, join Hudson, join the many financial supporters of today's event, join the White House in celebrating the activities and the events that have taken place over the last 10 years to get where we are. It takes a village, it takes a community, and today is a day to celebrate. So thank you all.